You can use Inventor to animate your golf hole, and it will then create a video file for you when you're done to show how your parts animate. This is the finished assembly with the constraints put on each of the moving parts. There's a door that swings, a triangle that rotates, and a blocker that moves behind the hole. This is the finished assembly. You start by finishing your hole layout, creating the parts that will move, like the blocker and the triangle and the swinging door, and then assembling them using constraints mate, flush, angle, tangent, insert to create the parts that you will actually animate. Those constraints are what you will actually animate. Start by creating a new assembly and saving that file. So for instance, a logical name would be Hole 1 Assembly. Save it in the correct folder. Once you've saved that file, place your base layout, the hole layout, into the assembly. And in this case, I will rotate it and get it into the correct position that makes it easy to assemble. Once that's in position, place it, and I will have to remove the extra. And now plan out your hole. So here I'm going to start by putting in the blocker in the back. So I place the blocker, and I will zoom in, and I want it to be right here around that particular location. Once you have it placed, press the G command to position it so it's easy to mate what you want to mate. So in this case, I'd like to mate this face with the base of the course. So I select the mate constraint, and the first face I want to select is this face. And if you miss the face, you can go back and reset it. There we go. And apply that constraint. That constrains the blocker to the bottom of the hole layout there. Next, you want to rotate the component into position, and the constraint that I'll apply is between this face and the face that's of the blocker that is actually in line with this face, and that will allow me then to animate that constraint, that mate constraint, to move the blocker back and forth. So I start by turning on the constraint. I'm going to leave it at mate. I'll set the offset to 4 inches so it's not right up against the wall, and I click that wall to get started. Next, I rotate around the assembly so I can see the other face that I need to mate, and there it is, offset 4 inches. And I apply the constraint. Now to animate this, what I do is rotate the whole assembly into an easy to recognize position, and I can see how things are going to come together. And now I switch to the environment called Inventor Studio. So click Environments and then Inventor Studio. From here, you create a new animation by using the browser. I right click Animation, select New Animation, and it comes up in the browser as Animation 1. Double click the animation to activate it. That turns on this animation and means that the parts that I animate will then be active and move. The next thing I do is I'm going to drag the playhead to 2 seconds so that that's where the animation will end. And I then select the mate command because that's the actual constraint that I want to animate. Select Animate Constraints, and it will start at 4 inches and I will end it at 29 inches. And it will start at 0 seconds on the timeline and end at 2 seconds on the timeline. I select OK, and you can drag the playhead back and forth to see how your animation turned out. Now that doesn't seem to go quite far enough, especially if you look at the hole. So I'm going to undo my animation and then redo it, only this time I'll make it go 60 inches. So it moves as far as I want it to move. and that gets it right to the hole. And if I want to do it again, I can undo that animation and right click it and animate that constraint, and I'll go to 80 inches. See if it goes as far as I want it to go. And that's acceptable.